SKYPEanxietycenter.com.
Well, I think I was discussing with Marguerite about tomorrow, my mom's funeral, and I just kind of wanted to get maybe some tips on how to deal with that and my symptoms. Like, I'm really kind of freaking out. And I have to go to my nieces afterwards because we're having like appetizers or whatever, family type gathering over there, and I'm just wondering if you have any suggestions on what to do. I think have you lost a parent, Jim? I don't remember.
Yeah,
I gotta remember.
we lost 3 in the last 5 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So, do you have any parents still living, or?
My mom is still living. She's 92. She's been dealing with health issues, and we were out there to visit her.
My mom was 94. She would have been 94 like a week.
Wow.
In a week, she would have been 94. So about the same age.
Yeah. Yeah, we're familiar with all that, and certainly the grieving of the loss, and then dealing with the estate and the funerals and all the things that have to happen. So yeah, unfortunately we're too familiar with that.
Yeah, it's like, how do I'm really doing everything I can to calm myself down, but it's like, well, like when I was talking to Stacy, he was telling me that right now I need to just it's going to get worse before it gets better, he was saying, and I need to concentrate now on just focusing on getting through it and using whatever I can, and then after it's all over, start working back on the anxiety.
Yeah, and that's good advice. I mean, we can only do the best we can during those situations. If we're to offer any additional comments, it is to try to keep your focus on what you're doing, the executive things that you're doing, because that keeps the brain from engaging the fear center. When the mind starts to ruminate back to, oh my gosh, I feel terrible, I'm not sure how, we just want to say, no, stop, I need to focus on this. Because it's going to be it's going to be fueling the anxiety that's going to make things more difficult.
What's going to be fueling it? I couldn't hardly hear you. I'm sorry.
It's going to be fueling the anxiety that's going to make things more difficult.
Yeah.
With the negative thinking, such as, oh my gosh, I'm feeling terrible. How am I going to make it? I hope I don't freak out. I hope, that kind of thinking just fuels everything.
Yeah.
So you want to keep your focus. Say, no, this is anxiety. I don't feel good right now, but I'm just going to focus on, what I need to do and keep my focus there. And if you're feeling that there's going to be episodes where you're feeling more out of control or the symptoms are stronger than others, just find a quiet place to go away and collect your thoughts. And then when you're steady, go back in again. It really comes down to just doing the best you can in that environment. Don't judge it. There's no perfect way. There's no magic solution. It's just a matter of doing what you need to do, getting through it, and then, as you're right. After you're through it, then focus on recovery work again, and give yourself time to grieve. And if you have to do estate things and like that, factor that in as well. But it's just really doing what you can to get through it and moving on. I know you mentioned earlier in the pre-conversation that you were thinking of taking a little bit of a benzo to help settle you. If you feel that's going to help you in that situation, I don't see there's a problem with it. It's the long-term benzo use that causes the problem. Here and there to settle yourself as you're learning skills. I wouldn't be giving it a second thought.
Yeah. I do find that when I start feeling that way, I start getting panicky and thinking negative and start feeling like, oh my God, what if this happens? Or I'm going to do, I always like to sort of think about situations where, like thinking about how in the ER, how I reacted and my symptoms were, or when I had to go to the funeral home, I had to sit in that stupid chair, and when you're sitting up straight, it's hard to your head feels weird, it's hard to balance, it's hard to, but I keep thinking about how well I did, and then so that makes me feel more positive. Mm-hmm. So I do tend to use that technique of doing that, but since this happened a few weeks ago, I feel like I've taken like 100 steps back, and so that scares me. I think, oh my God, I'm going to be like this the rest of my life, and I'm getting worse. And then I have to think, no, I'm only getting worse right now because I'm going through all the stress and I'm having to do all the funeral planning and, and
Yeah.
um, just everything. And so it's just logical. And I try to tell myself that because when I start to feel worse, I start to get really scared and kind of hopeless feeling and stuff. It's just a constant mental battle.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
feels like to be positive because our brains just want to go to the negative side for protection. The
Yeah.
brain always wants to think of the worst or go to the worst so that it's just a survival thing to prepare your brain for anything bad that could happen so it's just a normal natural thing. I know that, but the brain just wants to go there.
Yeah.
um
Especially
but it's
especially when the body's really stressed, because stress,
yeah,
activates the fear mechanism. So it's going to be looking for things, and that gets easier when you get your stress back down to normal. It won't be as prevalent. So,
yeah,
and I know you talk about, what if I'm going back? Because we always want to remember there's two pieces to anxiety disorder: the physical side, which is stress related, and the mental side, which is anxious thinking. So there's really
yes,
isn't any danger of us getting stuck anywhere, especially when we learn good coping skills, because you eliminate the anxiety portion, you eliminate the symptoms. And so we always want to look for having symptoms. It's related to stress. All right, my stress is up, and you have a good reason.
yeah,
So it's not that it's, everything, life is normal and you're not experiencing any stressors, and all of a sudden your symptoms are up. So that's not happened. So you have a good
yeah,
reason, and we are going to face tough life circumstances that we're going to have. There's going to be stress associated. So we just want to be prepared. It's just stress. Once this is over, I'll get my stress done. I'll be fine again.
yeah. Well, I was struggling before, but not quite like to this magnitude, of course. But
Yeah, yeah,
it's all emotional, you know
yep, yep. It is.
but
And remember that our emotions are driven by our thinking, right?
yes, definitely.
Yep. So if we don't want to be, running down the emotional trails for a long distance, we can just say, okay, I need to change my thinking here. Because it's okay
Yeah.
to dwell and grieve and experience loss, but we also want to moderate it so we're just not dwelling there all the time.
Well, it's just like too the memory. Like people say, well, just think of the happy. Well, the happy memories are just as sad as you know.
Yeah,
it's all sad. It all affects you
yeah,
terribly, and it's very strange that you thinking you're going to reach this point in your life already where you're now feeling like an orphan. You lost both parents, and then you always think, oh God, well, my generation's next.
yeah,
We're just kind of but of course that gets into the spiritual aspects of it, and
yep, yeah,
I do
yep,
understand that, but it's just that I know that when I'm going to be there tomorrow because I've got to set up. I've got my daughter-in-law helping me set up the table, and it's in a mausoleum, and
mhm.
so it's like I don't have to pay the funeral home because I'm kind of like it's kind of like a graveside, so I'm kind of like doing everything,
Oh wow,
and
yeah,
so that kind of made it harder too because I'm thinking, okay, what if it's not going to be, people are going to be critical or,
yeah,
people like us are such perfectionists and we're control freaks. So it's like, I have to do everything and then I keep adding more and because I want it to be really nice. And, um, and I've had a couple of family issues along the way, where I've had to kind of smooth that out, and stuff. But,
yeah,
um, that's just my critical thinking too. But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah, yeah. Just do the best you can for now. Um, it's a hard, and even through our loss of our family members, we also had to deal with family issues. I think there's
yeah,
every's families have you know people in that relationship who just you don't get along with, or for some reason there's problems. So that adds
yeah.
to the mix, and they only become heightened during those times. But
And that's happened a couple of times over the last couple of weeks,
yeah,
too. But anyway, I know I'll get through it, and I'll just have to just float through these stupid ass symptoms.
yep, yep,
I know
just
I'm going to feel like I'm in a box. I know my hearing's going to get diminished and muffled. I know I'm just
yeah,
going to have to just laugh at it. That's what I usually do anyway.
yep,
You know,
yep,
I literally feel like I took some puffs of weed or something before I do things like this. It's like I do. I just feel like, and I'm thinking, oh my God, just think
yeah,
of it as that way. But anyway, well, I know Christine's in Australia, and she probably needs to go next because I know she's probably wanting to go to bed.
That's right. Yes. But you can
So
join in after. You can join in after too if you have
sure,
time.
yeah,
Sure, Janice. Yeah, I
yeah.
appreciate that.
Oh,
Listen, I'm
okay,
sorry.
Christine.
I'm sorry to hear about your mom, and I'm sorry to hear that
Oh
you have
well,
to go through this. So,
well, thank you. Yeah, you never think you're ever going to go through that. You just don't ever think especially your mom. My
yeah,
dad passed away in 91, but it's like, you just don't think about that. It's like, you're thinking to yourself, my God, my mom's gone.
yeah,
She's gone, you know?
yeah, yeah. And you mentioned something else too is significant is that you kind of hits you a little bit harder when you realize you're the last generation now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my son reminded me of that too.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah. Our kids
But
do the same thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh my.
But anyway, well, okay. Well, thank you
Awesome.
so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah.